Hey, God bless you, everybody. I'm not going to be before you long. Just want to quickly come on here and tell you about this dream that I had. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not a dream. I'm just used to saying the dream that I had. It wasn't a dream. So, I was speaking to the Lord yesterday, and He began to speak to me about finances and what to do in order for to come out on top with my taxes for the 2026 year when you file your taxes. First, let me say I am not a tax professional, okay? And everybody's tax situation is different. So, this is my disclaimer. Whatever I say here and you decide to do it, you are doing it at your own risk, okay? All right, so now that I got that out of the way, let's proceed. So, I was in my prayer time yesterday and God began to speak to me. And He said the word denarius. He said Schedule A. And then He said buy and sell everything before the end of the year, which is at this point, today is December 25th, 2025, which is like a week away from the end of the year. So I think what we got 6 or 7 days left of the year. So I'm like, God, I only got 6 or 7 days left. So what, I don't know what I'm gonna do with that. But anyway, let me break down what God is saying. So denarius is something that is a coin or money system that was used in the Bible times. So, and there's a couple instances where it talks about denarius, but there's one particular that sticks out to me where the disciples were looking for a way to pay their taxes. And I don't know if it was Jesus. Was it Jesus? I think it was Jesus who was like, okay, go get this fish, or when you get this fish up, there's going to be a denarius or a coin in the fish's mouth, and you need to go use that to pay your taxes. Okay, so that's one thing. Then, like I said, then the Lord spoke to me and said, Schedule A. Schedule A in tax. Schedule A could be a lot of things, a couple different instances where they talk, where in today's world there's a Schedule A, but God is speaking about a Schedule A in regards to taxes. So there's different schedules that you use for your taxes, or different forms, because that's all it is. Schedule A is where you itemize your deductions. So instead of just taking like a standard deduction, like I said, I ain't no tax professional, but be that as it may, Schedule A is where you list every single thing you can that applies to the tax code that you say is an expense, and then you should be able to get some of that money back. So everybody might not use the Schedule A, so this might not apply to you. But maybe it could be that you might need to use the Schedule A if you're listening to this. But whether you use the Schedule A or whatever schedule you use, it don't matter, because there's still more in this wisdom that can apply to you. So like I said, Schedule A is about listing every single deduction instead of just taking a lump sum deduction like most people do. They say, okay, I got 8 kids, boom, I'm gonna get the child care tax credit, whatever, blah blah blah. So Schedule A. So he was talking to me about that. Now I do Schedule A, and I do itemize my deductions. So God was speaking to me about that in reference to buying and selling everything before the year is over with, because when the year is up and you go to file your taxes in 2026, what happens is that you could only claim the stuff that was in 2025. So this is why God is saying buy and sell before the end of the year. So all through the year, you should have had, things that expenses or whatever. Let's say you have a little small business or whatever, and you bought stuff for that business, you purchased things for that business. You'll be able to put that on your deductions. You'll be able to claim those things. But for me, when God was saying buy and sell before the end of the year, I'm like, God, I already know that. And I did what I could. Like, there's certain things that, if I pay it now in 2025, I'll be able to claim it on 2026. So I have like certain tax bills for different issues of mine or different things that I own. And some of them I can't afford to pay till next year, till a week from now. So I'm like, God, if, I hear what you're saying, but I ain't got the money to pay for it right now. I'm going to have to wait till 2026, and then I won't be able to claim that until 2027. So, but what I'm believing here for you and for me is that God is going to provide a fish with the money in it for you to be able to pay it. So be on the lookout for the provision for the money specifically for your taxes. And God is going to earmark it and say, okay, this check in the mail that you just got, that ain't for you to go spend it and to go get some, high price shoes or something like that. It's for you to go and get, for you to go and pay the taxes before the end of the year. So be on the lookout for that, for the taxes that is going to come, the money, the earmarked money that is going to come for you to pay that. Also, other ideas began to come in my mind, things I already knew, but just come back to me. You can go, if you don't have the money, and let's say you have, a lot of us, whether we live in paycheck to paycheck or whatever, a lot of us have so much, like clothes and things we don't even wear. We need to back up the clothes, go take them to Goodwill or wherever, have them give us a receipt, for the amount that we, think that is worth. And you can deduct that before the end of the year. You can deduct that. So go pack up some clothes and stuff. That ain't going to cost you nothing. Now, if you have money and you do need things for, like say you have a little small personal business or a sole proprietor or something like that, a little side hustle, and you're like, oh, I need to purchase this for my business, do it now before the 7 days are up. If you have the money. But again, like I said, if you don't have the money and you pray and you ask God, he's going to provide the denarius and the fish. Now, as the day went on, God began to download different ideas. So, and like I said, everybody's situation is different. So you need to, when you listen to this, you can be like, okay, God, but this is my situation. How can I, start showing me ways that I could, come out on top for the 2025 taxes for when I go to file in 26. Show me what I need to do, Lord. So one of the things the Lord said to me as I was going on throughout my day, it just popped in my head. Some of us, maybe we have people who have come to live with us or whatever, because times are hard now. A lot of people lost their job in 2025. A lot of people, The federal workers were not getting a check for so long that now they might have been destitute, and so a lot of people are going to stay with family. And so you might be renting out a room in your house, and maybe you just say, you just stay here until you get yourself together or whatever. If you rent out a room in your house, or somebody come to stay with you or whatever for a little bit, and maybe you just had an agreement like, hey, just give me a couple dollars or whatever. What you're doing is, to me, that's charity, but the tax code can look at that as, it could be an expense. Because suppose you just like, I know you struggling, so you trying to get yourself together, so just give me a couple dollars a month. Well, if somebody giving you like $100 a month to stay in a room in your house, you ain't really making no money. So you could claim expenses. You could claim expenses. So they have to pay a portion of the gas, the heating, the water, whatever utilities that you got going on, electricity. There's certain tax codes that you could claim for that. But you can't just go to these. This is my final thing to say. This is not what God told me, but this is just, for your information. Maybe you do your taxes on your own and you know what you're doing. That's fine. But for other folks that go to these rinky-dink places just to get their taxes done, like I'm talking about like the name brands, the people who were just, pushed through tax school to prepare your taxes, and they don't really know what they're doing. You need to go to somebody that really understands the tax code, and maybe they're going to pay, you're going to have to pay a little bit more than, what you're used to get your taxes done. But in the end, it's worth it. So you need to go to a professional, someone that's not like in one of these chains, these chains that are like almost like the McDonald's of the tax preparer world. You need to go to somebody that knows what they're doing. Okay. That would know about all this, rental code and stuff like that. But maybe, like I said, you just like, oh, okay, you just give me $100 or whatever to the person, and you're not recording it. It's nothing wrong with going back. Say the person moved in June or whatever. There's nothing wrong with going back and saying, hey, listen, you paid me $100. Let's write the receipts for that. And you can go back into your, like, if the person, like, say, gave you a check, or they transferred the money over, you can look in your bank account and get all that stuff, and that way you can have a receipt of that payment. It also can help that person, when they go to apply for for an apartment or something like that. It could show and prove that, hey, they were paying their rent. So it could also help them as well. But the specifics of that, you need to get that from a tax professional, and because it may or may not help you. It might, in your situation, it might help, and in other people's situation, it might not. Maybe you was charging, like, I don't know, thousands of dollars to rent out your room, so maybe it would be more of a hurt than a help. So I don't know, but like I said, everybody's situation is different. But whatever you do, it's got to be done before the end of the year, which is not a lot of time. But again, like I said, God was like, he talked about that coin in the fish. So, if I just like, talk to God. He's your friend. Talk to Jesus like he's your friend, and just tell him like, hey, you want me to do this, so I ain't got the money to even do it. But he's going to provide. So I'm believing that for you. If you're listening to this, I'm believing that for you, that God's going to provide the money for the taxes. It's going to be earmarked taxes. It's not money for you to go buy stuff. stuff that you don't need. It's going to be for you to buy or pay up your taxes in 2025 so that you can recoup some of that money. And for some of you, it might be beneficial that you just don't owe taxes this year. Sometimes people owe, you know, and that's a horrible feeling. You don't owe nothing. They already take out so much. But anyway, I ain't gonna go there. All right. Well, God bless you. I love you. And until we meet again.